3 months from now, I'd be standing in a police station lobby at 2:11 a.m., hands numb, listening to an officer say the words I never thought I'd hear. The voice on the tape isn't yours. But that night, it was just my bedroom, my phone, and a recording that knew my secrets better than I did. It was 12:19 a.m. when I hit play for the second time. The screen glowed cold blue in the dark, washing the room in a thin, artificial dawn. The ceiling fan chopped the air in slow circles. And then the voice began, soft, breathy, confessional. My name, my history, my sins, except the mouth saying them wasn't mine. I stared at the waveform pulsing across the screen, a jagged heartbeat I didn't own. It sounded like me, same husky undertone, same habit of catching breath before admitting pain. But the phrases were wrong, like someone had emptied my life and rearranged it into a story I'd never told. I should have said it, the voice whispered. But I waited until it was too late. I didn't know it then, but that sentence would become the spine of everything that came after. I shut my eyes and listened. Footsteps creaked somewhere down the hall. Noah's room, then settled to silence. Lena's perfume still lingered in the doorway, warm sandalwood from the party we'd left early. My thumb hovered over pause. I couldn't do it. The voice kept going. You remember Emily, don't you? It said. We all do. We pretend not to. The name hit like ice water. Emily Hart. A name we didn't say aloud. The one that made Lena flinch when a certain song came on the radio. The one Noah only knew as she. I should have known when the recording used that name that this wasn't a glitch. This was intentional. I scrubbed back 5 seconds. The voice repeated the line, slower this time, waited with regret. A breath. Then, June 14th, Tuesday morning. I saw the email. My stomach clenched. Tuesday, June 14th. I tasted the memory like bitter coffee. That was the day Lena spent an hour on the back porch, whispering into her phone, hands shaking in the sun. She told me it was work. I trusted her. Cool. He tossed it here. For exactly 47 minutes, I sat in my bed staring at the brightness of the screen and replayed the same 30-second slice. Every time, my pulse hit the same point of panic when the voice said Emily's name. I tried to slow breathe. Inhale. Exhale. The voice didn't care. It kept confessing. 4 months after the funeral, I took the box from the attic, it said. I opened it. There were photos inside. An envelope. A key. I sat up, sheets sliding across my legs, skin prickling with cold air. Photos. Envelope. Key. My bedside lamp was off, but I could see Lena's silhouette framed in our doorway. The way she had looked earlier, shoulders tense, smile too tight. What box? What key? The word funeral swung between us like a noose. My thumb pressed pause. The silence hit hard enough to ring. I walked to the window and cracked it open. Night pushed in. Wet soil, distant rain, the metallic scent of the streetlight heating the fog. Somewhere, a car door thudded softly. I didn't know it then, but that voicemail would save my life. I scrolled backward. The file details glared at me. The metadata said it was recorded at 11:47 p.m. on our home network 2 nights ago. The app flagged it simply as sleep story. Source, unknown. Length, 12 minutes, 6 seconds. Location tag, our address. My name appeared in the title, a name I never use for recordings. Who named this? Who wrote this? I tapped for more info. A cloud icon flashed. Linked. Shared. My hand shook. I opened the link history. It had been accessed at 10:03 a.m. that morning by a device I didn't recognize. Alphanumeric ID, ending in Lena_KD. I felt my chest tighten. I wasn't alone in this recording. Someone else had listened. Someone who kept secrets in plain sight. I hit play again and lay back, trying to let the voice run without dissecting it. It didn't stay neutral. It crawled under my skin. I couldn't tell him, it said. He was upstairs, making coffee. I heard the spoon hit the side of the mug. I folded the letter. I hid it under the mattress. Spoon against mug. I'd stirred sugar into Lena's coffee that morning, watching a ribbon of steam rise. She'd kissed my cheek and said she loved me. The word had felt light then, like a cloud you think will hold you. Now it felt like wet paper tearing in my hands. I found a voicemail. The recording continued on his phone. The one he doesn't know I know about. Noah's door creaked softly. I froze. The hallway sighed. The house had moods. Tonight, it felt like a witness. It was 12:31 a.m. when the voice on my phone said the thing that made my blood go cold. I know what he did, and I know why Emily's name is still in our house. I paused, held the phone away. My reflection in the screen looked pale, stretched thin, a stranger inside a familiar face. What did I do? What am I accused of? This wasn't some AI imitation. This was a story someone wrote about us, threaded with details that only a person inside this family would know. I slid my feet to the floor and walked down the hall. The hardwood was cold. A faint draft slipped under Noah's door, smelling like laundry detergent and old shoes. Lena's door was open just an inch, the way she left it when asleep. I looked in. Her hair was spread across the pillow in a dark wave. One hand under her cheek. I stood there too long. The voice in my hand breathed softly, waiting to be resumed. I should have known when it called me him that this was Lena speaking, or someone mimicking her. But the timbre wasn't right, and the fear in it felt like mine. And then, pattern interrupt, the voice shifted tone completely. Are you listening? It asked. Good. Pause right now. Where are you watching from? Because this story, it could happen anywhere. To anyone. I closed my eyes. I could feel the engagement line slide into the narrative like a thread through a wound. Not sleazy. Not forced. Just a hand reaching out to whoever might be hearing this, including me. I whispered to no one, to the phone, to the dark hall. I'm here. I am listening. And I think it already happened. I resumed. The voice took on an urgency I'd never heard in my sleep stories. There's a second phone in the house, it said. He keeps it in the bottom of the briefcase. The brown one. It's locked, but the lock sticks. I turned back toward our room. The briefcase sat under the bed, half hidden by a stray blanket corner. It was brown, scuffed at the corners, left over from a job I no longer loved. Bottom pocket. Lock sticks. My breath quickened. The voice had become a map. I followed it. The flap clicked when I opened it. The leather smelled like old rain. My fingers found the zipper, snagged, and caught against a warped tooth. The lock shifted with a reluctant clink. I reached into the bottom pocket and felt cold metal. A phone. Slim. Matte. Not mine. I held it up to the light, like a confession. The screen was dark. My thumb hovered over the button. Don't. Do. It. I did it anyway. The phone bloomed to life. No wallpaper. Just gray. A single app sat dead center with no label, like a secret wearing a smile. I tapped. A list appeared. Voice files. Dozens. The names were short codes, dates, times. One title wasn't code. It was a name. Emily_final. My throat went dry. I tapped it. The room hushed completely, as if sound itself waited to see what would happen. White noise rolled in, a soft hiss like a river far away. Then a whisper. Female. Not Lena. Younger. Raw around the edges. If you're hearing this, it means he pressed play, she said. He got. My fingers went numb. The phone nearly slipped. Dad. The word hit me not as a father, but as an accusation. Emily's voice. The ghost of a name we didn't say. The one we burned in the fire of we don't talk about her. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she said. But I had to tell you. He's lying. And so is she. I sat down on the edge of the bed. The mattress sighed. The other phone, the one on my nightstand, kept the original recording paused at, "Are you listening?" The new phone kept speaking on its own timeline, a second thread pulled from the same knot. Lena turned in her sleep. A breath. A murmur. The house remained neutral, pretending not to know. I left the envelope in Noah's backpack. Emily's voice said, "He'll find it tomorrow. Don't let him open it alone." I stood. The room felt suddenly too small, as if every wall leaned in. Noah's backpack was hanging from his desk chair, navy blue, zipper half open. I picture myself creeping in at 1:03 a.m., sliding an envelope out from the front pocket, paper cold as skin. What's inside? Photos? Keys? Letters? Evidence? It would be easier not to look. Looking back now, I see that was the lie I liked best, that not knowing is safer. The phone buzzed in my hand. A text balloon popped onto the screen, time-stamped earlier tonight. 9:58 p.m., unknown number. No content, just a small microphone icon. I tapped. A short clip loaded. 10 seconds. A grainy whisper in the background. Words almost drowned by hum. Two voices. A man. A woman. The man sounded like me. The woman sounded like Lena. "Not yet," the man said. "He won't check the app." "He will," Lena whispered. "He always checks." Shock pinned me to the air. I could taste metal, mouth dry, heart slamming hard enough to ache. This wasn't a recording stolen from me. It was one set for me. Planted, timed, crafted with details only we would understand. Who did this? The original sleep recording chimed softly, a system chime, then resumed on its own, as if the devices were linked. "I should have told him," it said, "but I thought I could keep them safe. I thought I could keep her secret." I paced. The floorboards complained under my feet. A memory coiled around my ankle. Emily's last day in our house. The storm, the slammed door, the letter we never opened. Part of me died that day. The part that trusted silence. The timeline started to align in my head. Tuesday, June 14th. The envelope. The attic box. The second phone. Lena's porch whispers. The white noise. The name Emily_final. The unknown text with a linked 10-second whisper. And somewhere beneath all of it, a plan. I stepped into the hallway. Noah's door was closed. I put my ear to the wood and listened. No breathing. No movement. Just the electric hum of a house that didn't want to be involved. I turned the knob quietly and slipped inside. The room was dark, and it smelled like old notebooks and lemon cleaner. Streetlight washed a rectangle across the carpet. The backpack sat where I expected, zipper tooth gleaming like a small silver grin. I went to it, kneeling, and pulled the front pocket open. An envelope slid forward. Brown, unmarked, thick with something more than paper. I held my breath. I didn't open it. Not yet. Was I too late? My other phone vibrated in my pocket. A notification blinked. New playback started. Shared file. The recording that shattered my sleep. Accessed by device. Lena_KD. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Lena was awake. Listening. To me. To herself. To something we had buried and now dug up. I suddenly felt watched. The tiny hairs on my arms raised. I turned toward the door. A shadow moved across the hallway. Lena stood there, backlit by the dim glow from our room, hair messy, eyes wide. She looked at my hands, then at the envelope. Her expression did something I'd never seen before. It broke, then fixed itself again. She didn't speak. Neither did I. The sleep recording on my nightstand resumed without my touch, as if the house had become our narrator. "Don't open that," she said finally, a whisper thin as paper. Not in front of him. "Whose voice is it?" I asked. "On the tape." She swallowed. "I don't know. Is it you?" I pressed. "Is it Emily?" Lena's eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to mine. A tear gathered, held, refused to fall. "It's us," she said. "But it's not saying what you think it is." The hallway felt colder than it should have been. I could hear a drip somewhere in the kitchen, a slow tick of water into steel. Outside, a car rolled past, tires whispering against wet asphalt. In the quiet between sounds, something else emerged, a faint, distant playback. Not from my phone, not from the second phone, from somewhere deeper in the house. I stepped past Lena, down the hall, following the thread of sound through the dark. The living room smelled like yesterday's pizza and rain-soaked jackets. The TV was off, but the tiny standby light glowed red. The sound drew me left, toward the vent near the baseboard. As I crouched, the voice grew clearer, filtered and thin, like it was speaking through walls. "Dad," Emily whispered. "If you're listening, it's already too late." I pressed my ear to the vent. My heartbeat filled the tunnel. A breath on the other end. A pause. And then a scrape, metal on metal, somewhere beneath the floor. The voice faded into white noise. The white noise faded into silence. I looked up, and the house didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt complicit. Someone had threaded our home with echoes, set traps in the vents, hidden evidence in backpacks, dropped names into sleep stories so I couldn't ignore them. I should have known when the first file used my name. Lena stood in the doorway, holding herself tightly, the way people do when they think a storm is about to hit. "Please," she said, "just come back to bed." I held the envelope in one hand, the secret phone in the other, and my own phone buzzed with a new notification. New shared device access. Unknown_ID_731. Location tag. Inside the house. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because the next sound wasn't from a recording. It was from upstairs. A soft click. A door opening. A small, careful step. And then a voice. Young, unfamiliar, yet somehow intimately ours. Floated down the stairs, trembling but determined. "If you're both awake," it said, "you need to hear this." I didn't breathe until I saw the shape at the top of the stairs. Small, shoulders hunched, hands folded around something that caught the hall light, silver glinting. Noah's hair was a dark mess. His eyes were too awake for 1:07 a.m. "Is it about Emily?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. "Because I think I know something." I felt the envelope bite into my fingers. The secret phone warmed my palm like it had a pulse. Lena didn't move. She stood in the doorway to our room, face turned sideways, as if seeing Noah head-on would break her open. "Come down," I said, slowly. He took each step with care, stepping on the edges so the wood wouldn't creak. When he reached the last stair, he looked past me at the vent, then at the envelope. The silver thing in his hands wasn't a toy or a phone. It was a key. "I found it," he said, inside the lining of my backpack. It was taped. I checked the time. 1:09 a.m. My heart tried to climb my throat. "Who taped it?" I asked. Noah shook his head. "I don't know." He swallowed. But there was also a note. It said, "Use it only when you hear her voice." Lena's fingers dug into the edge of the doorway. A breath escaped her like a leak. "Noah," she said gently, "you should be sleeping." Noah didn't look at her. He looked at me the way kids look at one parent when the other parent is the question. "I was," he said. But the vent started talking. His words were so simple they felt impossible. I crouched next to the vent, held out my hand. "Let me see." He placed the key in my palm. It was small, old, cut in a way that reminded me of mailbox keys from apartment days, before houses and briefcases, and "We don't talk about Emily." The metal was cold, with a tiny engraved number on the stem, 731. Unknown_ID_731 flashed in my mind. The notification I'd just seen. My skin prickled. Noah pulled a folded paper from his hoodie pocket. He didn't hand it to me right away. His fingers skimmed the crease, as if the act of passing it would be betrayal. Then he gave it up. A single sentence, printed, no signature. When you hear her, don't open the envelope. Open the floor. The air shifted. I could feel Lena wanting to undo all of this with a word. She didn't have one. Neither did I. The floor? The key? Emily's voice. I should have known then that the house wasn't just a place. It was a device. Show me where you heard it, I said. Noah nodded. He led us to the living room vent, then to the one by the stairs, then a third one near the hall closet. Each grate had a faint hum behind it, like a whisper trapped in a tin can, waiting. I knelt at the third vent. The hum was stronger. I put my ear close. The white noise shivered with intention. A click, then words, so thin they felt like dust. Dad, the ledger. I jerked back. Ledger, I said out loud, as if speaking the word would make it less terrifying. Lena took one slow step into the hall. Her foot avoided the creaky plank, like she'd been practicing for years. What ledger? She asked. Quiet, controlled, but fear was thick in the room now, settling on everything like condensation. Noah went to the hall closet. He didn't hesitate. He moved the coats aside and dropped to his knees, hands feeling along the baseboard as if he had done this before. He found a tiny notch and pressed. The wood clicked. What are you doing? Lena asked, voice sharp for the first time. Noah, stop. He didn't stop. The baseboard rotated a quarter inch, revealing a narrow seam. He slid the key into the seam. It fit. The metal turned with a reluctant, scraping sound. Something locked. Something unlocked. The closet floor lifted a hair, like a lid unsealing. My breath went out of me, as if the house pressed a hand to my chest. Noah couldn't lift it alone. I knelt beside him. Together, we pried the hatch. The smell that came up was dry, old paper, and a hint of something medicinal like rubbing alcohol. Lena didn't come closer. She watched. Inside, a shallow compartment held 3 things. A small black notebook, a flash drive wrapped in tape, and a folded photo that had yellowed around the edges. The notebook had the word ledger stamped in plain gold letters. No names, no dates on the cover. Noah looked both relieved and terrified. He reached for the notebook. I put a hand on his wrist. Not yet, I said. Let's be careful. He pulled his hand back, hurt flickering through his expression. You don't trust me? I swallowed. I don't trust the situation. Lena spoke again, barely audible. Where did that come from? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the sleep recording on my nightstand, 20 feet away, chimed a soft tone and resumed again without being touched, like it was synced to what we were doing. I opened the floor, the voice said. You told me not to, but I had to. Noah flinched. That's my handwriting, he said, staring at the note in his pocket. Dad, I didn't write it. I swear. His panic was a living thing. I nodded, trying to anchor him. I know. I took the ledger out. The cover felt like thin leather. The first page was a list of dates and amounts in ugly block handwriting. June 14th appeared 3 times, each with a corresponding number. The column headers were simple: deposits, withdrawals, transfers. But there were annotations, too. Initials. EH appeared more than once. LH appeared twice. My initials, MH, once. A chill moved across the back of my neck like a slow hand. The flash drive looked like nothing. But in my head, I saw the app on the secret phone, the files named with codes, the one named Emily_final. The drive would be worse. Or better. Or both. I took a photo of the ledger with the secret phone. The camera shutter sounded too loud. Pattern interrupt hit at 1:17 a.m. The living room light flickered once, then steadied. The TV's red standby light blinked twice. My phone buzzed, a banner sliding across the top. Shared playback requested. Device. Unknown_video 731. Content. Emily_final. Do you see that? I whispered. Lena did not move. Her eyes were fixed on the ledger, not the screen. Close it, she said. Please. No, I said. Not yet. Noah crouched closer. What is YH? He asked. Emily Hart. Lena pressed her knuckles to her mouth. Don't say her name. Noah straightened, defiant in a way I recognized. You always say that. What? Her reply was a breath, then a sentence that felt like a wound opening. Because we made a promise. I didn't know then, but that promise would be the only thing any of us remembered verbatim 6 months later when we were telling the story to a lawyer in a quiet room with white walls. I pulled the flash drive free from its tape and felt something sticky and sweet, a residue that smelled like vanilla. Tape had been wrapped with care, not haste. I turned it over in my fingers. A faint engraving ran along the edge. Numbers, 06-14. The date again. The drive wasn't labeled with words. It was labeled with a day. Let's see it, Noah said, too eager. He reached for my laptop on the coffee table. He always leaves it half open, fan whining quietly, screen dusty with fingerprints and last week's homework. I hesitated. Wait, I said. First, the photo. We unfolded it carefully. The paper crackled. The image was a porch. Our porch, 3 years ago, sunlight hitting wood. Lena, younger by time, hair pulled back, laughing. Emily next to her, a step lower, face turned away, hand mid-gesture. In the background, something caught my eye, an object on the table. The brown briefcase. Why is that there? I asked, more to the air than to anyone. My mouth went dry again. In the bottom right corner, someone had written a date. In the top left, almost invisible, someone had written a single word in pencil. Proof. Noah held the photo closer. That's the day the envelope showed up, he said softly, as if confessing to a crime he didn't commit. The sleep recording on my nightstand shifted tone. The voice was slower now, a metronome for panic. He'll say it wasn't him, it said. He'll say the ledger is fake. He'll say Emily made it up. Who is he? Noah demanded. He wasn't looking at the vent anymore. He was looking at me. My chest tightened. I don't know. Not yet. I should have known when the voice used he as a moving target that the story wasn't going to hand me a villain. It was going to hand me a mirror. At 1:23 a.m., we made a choice that didn't feel like one. I plugged the flash drive into the laptop. The screen blinked. A folder appeared, named with the coded format I'd already learned to hate. Inside, files were labeled with dates and single-word tags. Phone, porch, vent, office, final. The last file was different. It had a real name, ledger_explanation, and MOV. Noah hovered close enough that his shoulder brushed mine. Lena stayed back, but I could feel her presence like gravity. I clicked the file. The video opened to a shaky shot of hands in a lap. A young woman's hands. Emily's. A voice off camera asked, say your name. Emily didn't. She lifted her hand and revealed something small. Another key. The same number engraved. 731. I won't say it, she whispered. He doesn't deserve to hear me say it. The camera shifted to her face. The image wasn't clean. The colors were too warm. The sound fought against white noise, like the vent was trying to talk over her. But her eyes were clear, and tired, and older than they should have been. This isn't about money, she said. It looks like money. It was used like money, but it's about promises. They kept it because they said they'd protect me. They didn't. Lena made a sound that wasn't a word. Noah flinched at the sound. Emily held up the ledger. The pages flipped. Dates. Amounts. Initials we knew. He wrote these, she said. He told me it meant I was safe. Who? Noah whispered. Who wrote them? Emily's eyes pinned the camera, as if answering a question we didn't ask. Dad, she said. And Lena. The room went thinner suddenly, as if the air lost weight. I felt my stomach buckle under the drop. Noah turned his head slowly, like his neck hurt, and looked at Lena. She looked like someone drowning without water. I didn't, Lena said. The sentence broke in the middle. I didn't write. Emily's voice continued. You said if I left, if I disappeared, you'd keep it all in a ledger and never let anyone touch it. You said you'd hold it for me. I believed you. God, I believed you. The video cut to black for 1 second, then resumed. Pattern interrupt. The camera sat on our porch table now. The briefcase. A hand opened it. The bottom pocket. A phone appeared. Matte, slim, no wallpaper. The same phone now, sitting in my palm. I felt the shape in my hand like guilt. If you're watching this, Emily said from off camera, voice thinner, it means I decided not to come back. The video ended without a goodbye. File complete. My laptop's fan whined louder, as if it felt embarrassed. I couldn't stay sitting. I stood too fast. The room tilted. Lena sat down like her legs decided harder things needed softer landings. Noah stared at the vent, and then at the closet hatch, and then at his mother, and then at me. Why would she call you Dad? He asked. His voice wasn't angry. It was something worse. It was curious. I didn't say the sentence I wanted to say, because I am. I didn't know then if that was true in the way he meant it. The letter Dad can be an accusation, a title, or a target. That night, it was all three. The secret phone buzzed in my hand. New shared device access. Lena_iPad approved. Content. Emily_final now playing. Location. Upstairs bedroom. I looked at Lena. Her face was still. Too still. Why are you listening to it? I asked. I'm not, she said. It's playing on its own. We were being led. Guided by something we couldn't see. Something threaded through vents and floorboards and shared apps and old promises we forgot to honor. The urge to run. Out the door, into the wet night. Leave the house, leave the story, was loud enough that it felt physical. Noah spoke softly, a new weight to his words. There's one more thing, he said. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to make it worse. I closed my eyes for a second. Open them. Tell me. Noah walked back to the stairs. He lifted the carpet runner 2 steps up and pulled at an edge until it popped loose. Underneath, stuck to the wood with clear tape, was an old smartphone, black, cracked at the corner. Someone had hidden it in plain sight. The tape had a scent, same vanilla. He peeled it up with care. I took it and pressed the power button. The screen flickered to life, barely. A lock screen appeared with 2 words that burned longer than the light. For Dad. There was no passcode. It slid open with a thumb like it had been waiting years for this exact touch. One app was installed. Voice memos. The list was short. 3 files. The most recent was time-stamped 11:47 p.m., Tuesday, June 14th. The name of the file was a sentence. I kept my promise. My throat felt like it wasn't part of me anymore. I tapped the file. The white noise that came through was different than the sleep recording. Less slick, more honest. You could hear wind, a car passing, a bird, Emily's breath close to the mic. Then her voice, steady in a way I had not expected. Dad, she said, if you're hearing this, I did it. I wrote the ledger. I hid the key. I told Noah without telling Noah. I used the vent because houses are bad at keeping secrets, but they're good at echoing. I didn't come back because you needed to find this without me. You needed to choose it. Choose it. What? Me. Or them. The thought arrived in pieces, not yet whole. Emily continued. He's going to say I lied. He always says that. She's going to say she was protecting me. Maybe she was. Maybe you all were. But the truth is in the floor. The clip ended with a sound I couldn't place at first, a tiny metallic chime, like a key pressed against a teacup. The same frequency as the key in my hand. 731. The room went so quiet my ears made their own noise. I looked down at Noah, at the key, at the hatch, at the ledger, at the photo. At Lena. She hadn't cried. Not yet. But something in her posture had given up. Noah whispered, "Are we going to open the envelope?" I held it up. It felt heavier than it should. It wasn't paper heavy. It was future heavy. The hallway light flickered again. Twice. The vent hummed. The night pressed its face to the window. I thought of the police station at 2:11 a.m. 3 months later, the officer's mouth forming the shape of disbelief. "Not here," I said. "Not with the house listening." Lena's head lifted. "Then where?" I made the decision because it felt like the way to break the spell, like we needed a place that wasn't threaded with our ghosts. "The garage," I said. Phones off. Doors closed. At 1:41 a.m., we moved. I powered down the secret phone. I put my own on airplane mode. Lena did the same, jaw set. Noah tucked the key into his hoodie pocket and carried the ledger like a fragile animal. We stepped into the garage. Concrete smell, oil stains, cold air that didn't belong to anyone. The motion sensor light buzzed awake. I put the envelope on the workbench. I took the key back from Noah and set it beside the envelope, metal clicking against wood. The house on the other side of the door felt like it was alive, listening. The garage felt deaf. I tore the envelope gently along the edge. Inside was not money, not a letter, not photos. It was something thin, glossy, small, like a single slide from a microscope. Noah leaned in. Lena didn't. The slide had a smear of something dried. A label sticker on one end with 3 letters printed in neat black font. DNA. I stared until the label blurred. Noah breathed in too fast. Lena stepped back like a force pushed her. There was a second thing in the envelope. A smaller paper folded twice. I unfolded it. A sentence. No signature. Run the test. Then decide who you are. My hands stopped obeying me. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. The slide, the label, the envelope's ragged edge, the dull hum of the garage light, Noah's breath, Lena's silence. My past rearranged itself behind my eyes like furniture in an empty room. I didn't know it then, but the answer would change more than our names. It would change what we called love. A sound came from the house, a double chime, low, felt more than heard. The shared devices had found each other again. Even with airplane mode, even with doors closed, the story pushed through. We all turned toward the door, because from the kitchen, through wood and air and old promises, a new voice, older, male, strained, spoke on a recording we hadn't played yet. "If you're finally opening the envelope," he said, "you should hear me before you do anything else." It was 1:44 a.m. when the garage lights stuttered, a thin flicker like fear learning to breathe. The male voice bled through the kitchen and into us, through wood and insulation, ignoring airplane modes and closed doors. It sounded older. Careful. Wrecked. "If you're finally opening the envelope," he said, "you should hear me before you do anything else." I didn't move. The slide labeled DNA sat on the workbench between us like an answer wrapped in a dare. Noah's knuckles had gone white around the ledger. Lena's eyes were on the door, the way a person looks at a wave and tries to guess if it will break or swallow. "Who is that?" Noah whispered. I swallowed. My mouth felt like it had forgotten water. "I don't know." Lena's voice was threadbare. "Play it." We didn't have to. The house was already doing it. Routing sound through vents, through old speaker lines we had never quite removed, through whatever hidden wiring the person who built this place decided was necessary for a future none of us imagined. The recording shifted closer, no longer distant, no longer a ghost. It was inside the garage now, shivering off the metal shelving, off the car hood, off the concrete floor. "I made mistakes," the voice said. "I won't ask you to forgive me. I'll ask you to listen." I turned slowly, heart loud. An old Bluetooth speaker we hadn't used in years sat on the shelf above the tool set, dust clinging to its fabric. A blue dot glowed. Connected. I reached up and pulled it down. My hand left a clean print in the dust. Okay, I said gently. We're listening. The voice exhaled. There are 2 ledgers, it said. You found the first. You think it's money. It's not. It's names. Noah flinched like someone had tapped his spine. He looked at the notebook in his hands as if it might be lying without ink. Dad, he said, barely a question, barely an accusation, mostly a plea. I didn't answer. Not yet. My thumb brushed the edge of the DNA slide, careful not to touch the smear. The label's letters, DNA, sat there, hard and unarguable. There are 2 ledgers, I said, repeating the line, grounding it. Names. Lena's mouth tightened. Whose names? The speaker buzzed with a small static sigh and then picked up the thread. You wanted to protect her, the voice said. It didn't say Emily's name. It didn't have to. You thought if you replaced one name with another, if the paper said a different truth, it would become real. That's not protection. That's erasure. I felt heat rise in my face. The garage smelled like cold oil and old rubber and my own shame. Who are you? I asked louder than I meant to. Say your name. A pause. The speaker seemed to search itself for courage. You already know me, the voice said. You taught me how to write ledgers. My chest went tight in the center, like a fist had found a grip there. Noah, I said, turning slow, careful. Did you? Noah shook his head fast enough to blur. I didn't. I swear. The voice cut in, steadier. Not him. Me. Lena straightened, as if a single thread had been pulled, and her spine remembered it was a column. Michael, she whispered, my name thinning into air. This isn't you? No, I said, a breath that hit a tremor. It's not me. The speaker clicked. A door sound. A footstep. A chair scraping. Background noise that filled space without asking permission. Then, if you run the test, he'll deny it. If you don't run the test, she'll leave again. Test? Noah asked, eyes on the slide. I picked it up and set it carefully into a small plastic protector I found in a drawer. An old microscope kit he'd used when he was 10, still quietly loyal in the mess. We're going to run it, I said. We have to. Lena looked at me in a way she hadn't in months. No anger, no polished patience, just the raw edge of a person stripped of scripts. And if it says what we think it says, I didn't pretend to be the kind of man who had clean answers. Then we decide who we are. The speaker's volume rose by a hair. The voice continued. Start in the attic. Far right corner, behind the insulation. There's a second ledger. Red cover. It has the names you erased. The word erase sat in the space like a blade. I felt it in my teeth. Erased. I didn't know it then, but that word would end up in a police report under a section called intent. Noah looked at the door. Looked at me. We're going up now. We're going up, I said. We powered down what we could. Phone's off. Speaker unplugged. Its blue stubbornly dying only after a second, like it didn't want to give us up. We left the garage's honest cold and slipped back into the house. The kitchen had a new quiet, like it had been scolded. The hallway was a narrow vein of night. Our steps counted themselves. At 1:52 a.m., I pulled the attic ladder. It complained in drywood language. Dust felt like old snow. The air up there was different, thinner, warmer, heavy with insulation fibers and a vanilla note of that tape that had appeared on Too Many Secrets Tonight. Noah climbed first, careful, deliberate. Lena followed, face set. I went last, carrying a small flashlight and the quiet understanding that attics store things you don't want to admit you own. We crawled toward the far right corner. The flashlight cut a cone through the dark. The insulation was pink and itchy, rolled in neat waves like someone wanted the chaos to look organized. Noah stopped. His hand hovered over a section that bulged slightly, unnatural like the belly of a lie. He peeled it back. A red cover flashed under the beam. A ledger, exactly where the voice said it would be. My breath left me in one piece. Lena didn't breathe at all. Noah didn't touch it immediately. He looked at me, and I nodded. He lifted it like something fragile. The cover was worn, edges soft from hands. No title stamped. Just red. We opened it on a flat beam, knees digging into the plywood floor. The first page wasn't numbers. It was names. A list written in careful hand. Each entry had 2 columns, what we told them and what it was. The neat cruelty of it made my skin crawl. At the top, the first name, Emily Hart. Under what we told them, missing, chose to leave. Under what it was, relocated at our request. Lena broke. Not loudly, not messily, just a single sound, small, like a wire snapping inside her throat. Her hand went to her mouth. Her eyes shut. Noah's breath sped up. Relocated, he whispered, tasting the word like poison. By who? We flipped the page. The next entry, ledger custody, guardian, MH and LH. My initials. Hers. The pen strokes were steady, unemotional. Beneath that, a line in different ink. Addendum. Names replaced to protect. Consequence. Erased. I couldn't swallow around what that sentence did to my throat. A memory rose without asking permission. The porch. The briefcase. Emily's face turned away. The promise. Lena's voice saying, "We'll keep you safe." Mine saying, "We'll keep it simple." We didn't. We kept it secret. Not always the same thing. There were more names. Some I knew. Some I didn't. A sublist labeled vent routes. Rooms assigned with our rooms, our vents, our times. Lena's bedroom. Noah's stairs. My office. The recording wasn't random. It was choreography. Who wrote this? Noah asked, voice cracking on the last word. I ran my fingers across the page, not touching ink. Emily, I said, or someone who loved her enough to make sure we couldn't ignore her. Lena's eyes opened. Tears didn't fall. They stayed where they were born, caught in a decision. We didn't erase her, she whispered, as if the book might argue back. We hid her. We were going to bring her back. And then, I asked. She didn't answer. The attic held its breath for her. It didn't get an answer either. At 2:01 a.m., my phone, off, supposedly dead, vibrated in my pocket like a heartbeat. I pulled it out. The screen stayed black. But the vibration continued, steady, a mechanical purr misbehaving. The ledger's page fluttered from the tick. Lena looked at the phone as if it had grown teeth. Okay, I said softly. We're finishing this with or without the house's permission. We turned to the back of the ledger. A folded page sat tucked into the last section, thicker than the others. I eased it free. The paper had weight, old, layered, as if it had been folded and unfolded too many times. Inside was a printed transcript of a voicemail. Their names. Their words. Transcript, date, Tuesday, June 14th. Time, 11:47 p.m. Lena, we can do it tomorrow. He won't check. Man, he trusts you. Lena, he trusts both of us. Man, you trust me? Lena, I trust Emily. There was a gap, a line of ellipses, and then another voice, faint but present. Emily, stop talking about me like I'm a plan. That sentence crawled under my ribs and stayed. I thought about the slide on the garage workbench, about the ledger in Noah's hands, about our names written in someone else's careful hand like we were items on a list to be audited. Noah pointed at the margin. Look, he whispered. A small arrow in pencil. The arrow pointed to a single word written at an angle near the transcript's end. Swap. What does that mean? He asked. Lena's voice, when it came, seemed to have traveled far to arrive. Names, she said. We swapped names. I couldn't process the edges. I could only catch pieces. Say it, I said to Lena. Don't make me guess. She stared at the red cover. She stared at me. She stared at the dark beyond the flashlight beam. Emily's last name isn't Hart, she said finally. It's yours. Noah's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The sound came back then, not from the speaker, not from our phones, from the bones of the house. A soft, rolling hiss that resolved into words. A playback, not a voice, but of a single line stitched through our vents like thread. Her name was hidden in the playback. I felt dizzy, not from height, but from the tilt of everything. The attic seemed to shift. The insulation waved like a quiet sea. Lena reached for the ledger and put her palm flat on the page, as if holding it down would halt the storm. Why did you change it? I asked. My voice came out softer than I expected. She didn't look at me when she answered. Because people destroy the names they can find. Because paper gets burned. Because search engines crawl. Because sometimes the only way to keep someone is to teach the world they don't exist. At 2:08 a.m., the house did something small that felt enormous. The vent in the hallway below us sighed, and a new recording began. A child's voice, younger than Noah, careful, honest. If you're up there, it said, please come down. I can show you where the rest is. We froze. My skin went cold in patches. The flashlight shook in my hand. Who is that? Noah asked, voice thin. I didn't know. I didn't think I wanted to know. I wanted to take the ledger, the slide, the briefcase phone, the old hidden phone, and walk out. But the house wouldn't let me leave without answering at least one question. We crawled back to the ladder. The attic's heat pressed against our necks. The hallway waited below, light pooling like a small lake on the floorboards. The voice had come from the stairs, from a place where Noah had found the other phone taped under the runner. I stepped down first, ledger tucked to my chest. Lena followed, quiet, jaw set. Noah lingered one heartbeat longer than us, then slid down, feet finding each rung without looking. The hallway was empty. The vent hummed. The runner lay smooth. But halfway up the stairs, resting on the third step, sat a new envelope. Smaller. White. No tape. No label. I reached for it slow. Noah stood beside me, key 731 glinting at his hoodie pocket. Lena stayed back, in shadow, hand at her throat, breathing small. I flipped the envelope. On the back, in thin, careful handwriting, a single line. Play the file named with my true name. I looked at Noah. He looked back. We both looked at the secret phone, the one from the briefcase, now dark in my pocket but full of directories I hadn't opened yet. I slid it out. I held it in the air between us like a confession. My thumb hovered above the app. The house, as if it were a person who loved tragedy, went very quiet. The kind of quiet that happens before you turn a page in a book you've been pretending not to read. I unlocked the phone and typed the only name that made sense now. The search bar waited. The cursor blinked. My thumb pressed the first letter. The file list shifted. A single new file appeared, as if it had been waiting for the right name to be spoken. Noah whispered, afraid of hope. Dad, what does it say? I didn't answer, because the file had a title that would change the shape of everything we thought we knew. It was named with Emily's true last name, and it was mine. It was 2:12 a.m. when I pressed play. The secret phone warmed in my hand, slim and traitorous, a doorway disguised as a device. The file name stabbed first, Emily _, my last name _final. Seeing my name next to hers felt like opening a letter addressed to a version of me I hadn't met yet. Lena stood in the doorway to the hall, one hand on the frame like it was keeping her upright. Noah hovered at my shoulder, the key 731 glinting whenever he shifted. The house listened with that breathless silence it loved, as if it had been waiting years for this exact moment. The recording began with white noise, soft river-like, then a single inhale. Female, young, cautious. "Dad," Emily said, "I'm going to say this once because saying it again makes it less true." I didn't sit. I couldn't. The floorboards pressed their cold into my feet. The air tasted faintly metallic, like a storm stored in copper pipe. Emily continued, "If you're hearing this, it means you found the ledger. You found the slide. You saw the names." Noah's breath touched my arm. "She's talking to you," he whispered, like a reminder I didn't need. I swallowed hard. "I know." The recording clicked. Microphone handling. A cloth rubbed. Then her voice, close enough to feel. "You changed my name," she said. "You said it was protection. You meant it. I know you did." But protection became erasure. The word landed like a nail, driven slowly. Lena flinched, small, then steadied herself with 2 fingers against the doorframe. She didn't interrupt. Not yet. Emily's tone softened. "I love you. I know why you did it. I know why you asked Lena to keep me off paper, off systems, off anything that would make me traceable. You thought monsters search legal names. You weren't wrong. I didn't know whether to feel relief or grief." The sentence held both, like a glass holding fire and water and pretending it wouldn't shatter. Patter interrupt at 2:14 a.m. The vent in the hallway exhaled, a tiny sigh, then fell quiet. Somewhere outside, a car with a rough muffler limped past. The night adjusted itself around us. Emily kept going. But that plan made a second monster. Secrets. You can protect someone so hard they vanish. I vanished. I became a story you told instead of a person who spoke. Noah's face tightened. He stared at the phone like he wanted to crawl inside it and apologize. "Here's the betrayal," Emily said. "And it's not the one you think." The sentence grabbed my spine and held. Betrayal. Midnight. My heart tried to outrun itself. "I didn't disappear because I was taken," she said. "I left because you asked me to." The house moved around us, air shifting with settling. Lena's fingers whitened against the frame. "No," she whispered, the word a breath, then a shape. We never." Emily spoke over the past. "You told me to move. You told me to change my name again. You said it was the last time. You said you'd keep the ledger until I could come back as myself." I looked at Lena. Her mouth opened, closed, reopened. "We asked," she said low, almost to herself. "We asked because it was safer." She was in danger. Michael. She was in danger. My name had weight when she said it, like it dragged something behind it you couldn't see. Emily's voice thinned. The danger was real. The decision was real. But the promise was the betrayal. Noah stared at me. "What promise?" I didn't answer. The word had already started to unwrap itself inside me, and it hurt. "The promise," Emily said, "was that you wouldn't change the ledger, that you wouldn't replace names, that the truth would stay in a book, so I had proof of who I was. You promised. You wrote it down. I watched you write it. You looked me in the eye and said, 'They will never touch your name.'" The floor tilted in my memory. Porch sunlight. Briefcase latch. Her hand on mine, smaller than, bones like bird wings and trust like gravity. "Then you did it anyway," Emily said. "You erased me to keep me safe. You erased me to keep yourself safe." I understand both. It still broke me. At 2:17 a.m., the vent whispered a second voice, male, low, familiar enough to make my stomach knot. The recording layered without permission. The betrayal widened. "Michael," the man said softly, "you won't like what I'm about to say." Lena's head snapped to the vent. "Who is that?" I knew the shape of that voice even before it said the thing that cut the room in half. "It's your brother," he said. "It's Mark." My mouth tasted like rust. I felt time double back and pick up something I dropped years ago. Mark's voice, older now, weathered, Sounded like it had traveled a long way in bad weather. I kept a copy, Mark said, of the original ledger. The one with her true name. The one you promised not to alter. I leaned against the stair rail, thinking it would hold me. It made a small sound like sympathy. I didn't trust you, Mark continued. Not because you're a liar. Because you're a father. Fathers lie to balance monsters. It works until it doesn't. Lena's whisper slipped out before she could catch it. Mark, you had no right. He didn't hear her, or the recording didn't care. It moved forward, steady. I'm not your monster, Mark said. I'm your witness. I'm the one who told Emily to tape a phone under the stairs. I'm the one who told her to thread the vents. I'm the one who said, they won't listen until the house speaks. Noah's eyes widened. The vent routes, he did that. I nodded, the gesture feeling older than me. He did that. Emily returned. He was right. The two recordings braided, Emily and Mark, like the house had decided we needed a chorus instead of solo. Here's the second betrayal, Emily said, voice smaller now. Lena told me she would protect me. She did. She also protected herself. Lena's shoulders dropped. I did what I had to. Emily didn't argue. I know. Mark's tone sharpened. You two built a second ledger called trust. Then you spin it without asking. Noah's gaze tore between us. The hallway felt narrow suddenly. The runner on the third stair looked like a path we had chosen without realizing it had a destination. At 2:20 a.m., the house gave us a minute. A gift or a trap? The recording clicked off for exactly 60 seconds, as if it wanted us to think without supervision. I put the phone down on the stair. The secret device looked harmless against wood. I looked at Lena. She didn't look back. Did we ask her to leave? I asked, voice careful enough to cut glass. Say it. Don't let the house say it for you. She closed her eyes. Yes, she said. It was the kind of yes that ends one life and starts another. We asked. What? Noah asked. It was not a child's question. It was a man's interrogation. Lena opened her eyes. They were raw. Because someone was following her. Because the man who hurt her once tried again. Because he sent a letter. Because I didn't trust the police. Because I didn't trust the system. Because she wouldn't move unless we made it easier. And you made it easier, I said. It wasn't accusation. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a line of ink on a page that now felt like our skin. The recording resumed. Emily's voice was immediately there, as if she had been listening to our silence and wanted to stitch it closed. Dad, she said, run the test. Noah's eyes jumped to the envelope we'd opened in the garage, the slide labeled DNA. The word pulsed in my head like a small alarm. Emily continued, not because you don't know me, because they don't know you. Mark came back, a quiet echo. He's going to say the ledger proves something it doesn't. He's going to make this about money. It's not. I looked at Lena sharply. Who is he? She answered without looking away. The man who followed her. I didn't breathe. The hallway seemed to lean closer. Name. She took a long, steady breath through her nose, like someone bracing for impact. Alex Stone. Noah's face changed in ways I didn't recognize at first. A new angle to his jaw, anger learning to form itself. Is he? No, Lena said quickly. He's not her father. The relief was violent. I felt it in my knees. But it didn't change the temperature in the room. Colded thoughts tonight. Emily's tone sharpened. Alec is why I left. Alec is why I hid. Alec is why the ledger exists. Mark added, almost like a footnote. Alec is why your name matters. Betrayal had become geometry. Every line connected in ways I had refused to see. I pressed my hands to the stair rail and felt the home's old would try to be gentle. At 2:24 a.m., my phone, off, supposedly lit. A single notification pushed through black. New access request. Unknown _ID _731. File, Emily _ my last name, _ final, location, front porch. Noah stepped toward the door. It wants us outside. Lena shook her head. It wants us exposed. I weighed the fear with the need. The need won by a hair. We moved to the porch. The night met us with damp air and a quiet that felt curated. Streetlight made a small square of yellow on the steps. The porch smelled like old sun and wetwood. I pressed play again. Emily whispered, "If you're outside, good." That's where we said goodbye. The porch remembered that day in 100 small ways. Loose nail, scuff on the railing, the table ring from the coffee we didn't finish. The briefcase had sat right there in the photo. The memory held its breath. I asked you not to change my name, Emily said. You said you wouldn't. You did. And then you told me I was safer. Maybe I was. Here's the part you don't know. The recording scratched softly, like paper being turned. Then a new sound layered underneath. Metal on wood. A lock. A key. The frequency of 731 hummed. I took the copy, she said. The original ledger. I kept it, because I wanted proof that someone loved me enough to write me down. My throat burned. Emily, I said, uselessly, because the past doesn't answer. Mark's voice entered one last time, steady as a red line on a map. He's going to try to make your blood lie. He's going to say DNA proves his claim. It doesn't. It proves yours. Lena swayed, tiny, a ship in a mean sea. Claim to what? Emily answered, and the answer opened a door inside my chest I didn't know was there. My name, she said. My life. My father. Noah's breath broke. She means you. I didn't want to hear the next sentence. I pressed stop. I couldn't. Then I pressed play again because it was already speaking without me. Dad, Emily said gently, run the test. Then protect me without disappearing me. The recording ended. Not with white noise. Not with a click. With silence. The kind that takes your hand and leads you somewhere you wouldn't choose alone. We stood on the porch and let the quiet walk us to the edge of something that didn't have a shape yet. The slide in the garage felt like a loaded decision. The red ledger in the attic felt like an indictment and a lifeline. The secret phone in my hand felt like a confession. At 2:28 a.m., a shadow moved across the end of the driveway. I turned so fast my neck caught. A man stood under the streetlight, too still, too patient. He watched the house like it was a safe he knew how to open. He lifted his chin a fraction. The light shaved his face into angles I recognized from old nightmares. Lena's voice sliced itself thin. Alec. Noah stepped forward, a muscle in his jaw locking hard. What is he doing here? The man didn't walk toward us. He walked toward the mailbox. He opened it with 2 fingers like you'd open a wound. He took out a single envelope and held it up, letting the streetlight wash it gold. I couldn't move. My palms burned. The porch seemed not to exist. Only his hand, the envelope, and the knife smile of someone who knows exactly how far a secret reaches. He turned, slow, deliberate, and laid the envelope on our porch rail. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The envelope had a single word written on it in red ink, neat, unhurried. Swap. He looked up at me, and the kind of smile that makes men run tightened one corner of his mouth. Then he lifted his phone and pressed play. Okay, there's an interesting way to escalate things. So the house devices play, and we analyze the audio with an app. Maybe it reveals Morse-like beeps hidden in the sound, which leads to something like storage unit 731. That could tie into a motif I want to keep going. This swap. Envelope contains a birth certificate with a different last name and a hospital wristband. Oh, this is getting good. The twist at the end. Alec could claim he's Emily's legal guardian due to a court order or even show some legal document, like a judge's letter. Or maybe Lena met Alec before she married. There's a lot of potential here. And then, bam, cliffhanger. Maybe the police arrive or Noah goes missing. Or even more eerie, playback from inside the house reveals someone else is there. I need a strong ending, something gut-punching. Maybe something like, and then the white noise said Noah's name. Good. What way to leave the reader hanging. It was 2:31 a.m. when Alec raised his phone and pressed play. The sound didn't start with a voice. It started with a hiss, the same soft river-white noise that had been threading our vents all night. But this hiss was meaner. It carried a grain, like sand in a wound. The porch light bust. The envelope he'd left, swap, red ink, neat, glowed faintly in the streetlight spill. Lena touched my arm. Her fingers were cold. Noah stood one step down, key 731 catching every stray bit of light, jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. I held the secret phone like it could decide what kind of father I was. Alec didn't speak. He angled the screen so we could see the waveform, flat, then ridged, then flat again. The hiss rose and fell like breathing. Between the waves, tiny clicks. Patterned. Intentional. Turn that off. I said, the words iron thin so they wouldn't shake. He didn't even blink. He let the hiss run. And under it, a whisper-thin code tapped itself across the night. Noah leaned forward. It's like Morse, he said. But wrong. I listened harder. The clicks came in pairs, then a long gap, then 3 fast. My skin prickled. My mind started counting 2, pause, 3, pause, 1, pause, like the house had trained me for this moment without asking. The porch smelled like wet wood and old coffee. My heart felt older than me. The white noise shifted. A low tone slid under it, like a bass note from a swallowed radio. Lena's breath hitched. Alec's mouth tilted, satisfied. Don't, she said softly. Michael, don't follow him. The hiss broke, not a fade, a crack, and a single word leaked into the sound, stretched thin, as if dragged across wire. Ledger. My grip tightened on the phone. We have it, I said. Alec finally spoke. His voice was quieter than I remembered, which made it worse. You have one, he said. You don't have mine. I stepped down off the porch and felt the night press itself into my shirt. What do you want? He looked at me the way men look at something they think they can buy. Proof, he said, that she's mine. Lena's hand flattened against her chest. She's not. His eyes slid to her, not long enough to be a threat, just long enough to be contempt. You know, he said, and turned the phone up. The hiss sharpened. The clicks resolved. 2. Pause. 7. Pause. 3. 1. Noah whispered it before I could. 7:31. The number landed like a stone in a pond. Ripples pressed outward, touching everything. The key in Noah's pocket. The unknown device requests. The engraving along the edge of the hidden phone. 7:31 had been following us all night like a shadow that didn't care about light. The white noise grew teeth. A second layer slipped in, quiet, pulsing a heartbeat of tone. It wasn't random. It was a frequency. It was a map. I stepped closer to Alec. He didn't step back. The air between us smelled like damp wool and stale cigarettes. His coat a gray the night made thinner. What did you put in there? I asked. He took his thumb off the screen. The hiss cut. Silence slammed into us like a door. It's not what I put in, he said pleasantly. It's what your house takes out. I didn't understand. I didn't have time. Because from inside, through the hallway, through the vent at the baseboard by the stairs, the hiss answered. The house mirrored Alec's sound. The clicks tapped, exact, mocking, as if the walls had decided to play along. 2. Pause. 7. Pause. 3. 1. Noah turned, eyes wide. Dad, we didn't chase Alec. We went back inside. The porch light watched like a bored witness. Alec stayed where he was, streetlight line, mailbox, patience like a profession. The hallway swallowed us in dim. The vents hum now felt like a voice holding back words. I crouched, ear close. The white noise carried a texture only people who sit in emergency rooms at 3:06 a.m. notice. The way sound hides messages when you're desperate enough to need one. Record it, I told Noah. Everything. He pulled his phone, opened voice memos, named the new file without asking. Hand steady even when his breath wasn't. Vin_731. Lena hovered, unsure where to put her hands. She settled for the doorframe again, as if the wood was a kind of safety you could hold. The hiss shifted. The clicks repeated. Then a new element slid in, an almost human breath, too regular to be casual, too light to be natural. My mind grabbed at it, failed, grabbed again, found an old memory. Hospital machines. The hum of an air purifier. The sound of sterile air learning a person's shape. Hospital, I said, the word falling out before I could dress it. It sounds like. Lena closed her eyes. Emily, she said. The white noise spread, widening through every vent like water, finding the lowest place. It carried a faint rhythmic beeping, slow, stubborn. Noah's eyes flicked to me, then to the ceiling. Pulse, he whispered. At 2:37 a.m., the living room TV woke itself. The red standby light blinked twice. Then the screen bloomed blue, a sterile brightness that made the room look like an operating theater. An app launched without our touch. Spectrogram. I had installed it 6 months ago for a work project I didn't finish. I hadn't used it since. The spectrogram began to paint the hiss into color. Bands of blues and greens. A few thin lines of red. The clicks didn't look like dots. They looked like coordinates. Noah moved fast, controlled. He switched from voice memos to the spectrogram feed, eyes tracking the shapes. There, he said. See that? That's not random. That's a pattern. The pattern resolved in 3 bursts. First, a number sequence, 0614, the date that had been living inside every object tonight. Second, 731, the engraving on our key, the ID on our ghost devices. Third, 2 letters, ghosted into the noise, barely there, but they're enough to hurt. EADI. What's ER? Noah asked like every question tonight was a trap disguised as a quiz. I stared at the screen. Emergency room, I said. A beat. Or Emily's record. Lena's mouth tightened. Enough guessing, she said, almost gentle. Find it. We pulled up the hospital site. I used my laptop. The fan kicked hard, the screen a mirror that showed 3 exhausted faces on top of a mess of tabs. The hospital had a patient portal I'd never seen. I typed in guesswork. Try my last name. Tried Emily's first. Tried combinations we'd swapped. Nothing. Noah put the key 731 down next to the keyboard like a talisman. Try the ledger, he said. Try the date. I typed June 14_731. The portal did what I didn't expect. It didn't open. It reset. A small piece of text slid across the top. 2-factor required. The vent hiss sang a small high note like it was laughing. Listen, Lena said, voice steady enough to hold. It's not a password. It's a place. We leaned back from screens and leaned into walls. The hiss was not just sound, it was direction. It kept repeating the same sequence. 2, 7, 3, 1. Then a long, low tone under the beeping. Then the faint ER like a watermark. The hospital on 7th and 31st. Noah said, words quick, hope quicker. Yeah. Lena's eyes snapped open. The old county building. The decision made itself. We moved fast. Shoes. Jackets. Ledger back into a bag. DNA slide into a plastic case. Phones as off as trust allowed. I stepped onto the porch and felt Alex's watchfulness like heat from a light you can't see. He barely turned his head. Field trip? He asked. I didn't answer. The night answered for me. Car doors, engine, headlights slicing wet air into permission. We pulled out. Alex stayed back, hand on his mailbox, smile tight and small. At 2:51 a.m., we turned on at 31st. The county hospital loomed, ugly in ways that earned respect. Brick, old, lit like people still mattered. The ER's sign hummed, neon fighting fog. The doors whooshed when we pushed them. The air inside had that hospital smell. Clean trying too hard, metal trying not to admit it's metal. We went to the desk. A nurse looked up, hair in a bun that meant business, eyes that didn't buy drama unless it brought paperwork. Name? She asked. I tried mine. She typed. Stopped. Thumb hovered. It's locked, she said. Why are you here? Because, I said, white noise told us to. Her eyebrows did something I didn't have time to unpack. That's not a reason. Lena stepped forward with the only thing that wasn't rhetoric. A plastic case with a slide labeled DNA. We need a chain of custody, she said, calm voice that held a courtroom under it. We need a test. The nurse looked at the label, then at us, then at the clock, which read 2:59 a.m., which matter because nights like this care about minute markers. Sit, she said. We'll see what we can do. We sat in chairs that held the weight of other people's nights. The vent in the ER ceiling hissed a cousin of the hiss at home. The spectrogram feed on Noah's phone kept moving like a tiny river. Lena rubbed her thumb across the edge of the ledger through the bag, as if texture could give courage. Pattern interrupt at 3:06 a.m. A man in a security uniform walked in and didn't look at us. He looked at the nurse. He said, there's a request. Private. From upstairs. The nurse's mouth tightened. She looked at us then, really looked. Who's Alec? Noah said it before I could stop him. Someone following us. She nodded once, like a person receiving bad weather reports. He called, she said. He asked for a hold. On your names. My throat burned. He doesn't have that right. He does, she said, the kind voice hiding this time. For 3 hours. Lena went very still. On what grounds? The nurse didn't say the word that breaks people, because she didn't have to. Protective order, she said. Filed last year. I leaned forward, hands hanging between my knees like they were waiting for orders. Against who? She checked the screen. Against Emily. The world tilted. Chairs, floor, light. All wrong for 1 second, then savage with rightness that hurt worse. Noah whispered, what does that mean? It means, the nurse said, you can't access records with her name until 6:06 a.m., unless she's here. We're not leaving, I said. She nodded, practical compassion like a blanket you keep folded. Then wait. We did. The ER hummed. The vent hissed. The spectrogram painted. The slide sat between us like a dare. At 3:19 a.m., my off phone lit again. The house didn't care about rules. A single notification pushed through. New playback. Location. Home. File. Ledger _ explanation. MOV. Viewer. Unknown _ ID _ 731. Alec was in our house. I stood so fast the chair kicked back. Lena's hand shot out, caught my sleeve. No, she said. Stay. If we go, we lose the test. Noah looked between us, face pale and furious. He's going to take it. He can't, Lena said. It's here. He'll take the rest, Noah said. The other ledger. The phones. The vents. I looked at the clock. 3:21 a.m. The protective order made the room a cage. The door was open. The space outside would be worse. He said. I felt like breaking something. I didn't. I held the slide case with 2 fingers like it was both heavy and holy. The hiss changed. The air vent pitched up, soft, then lower again. Noah's spectrogram caught a new band. Thin, bright, a line drawn across the noise like a scalpel gently applied. He pointed. That's new. We leaned closer. The line had letters hidden inside its brightness. Tiny. Barely there. L-H-E. Lena's breath broke. He's in the feed. The line continued. New letters arrived. A phrase, thin as thread, readable only if you wanted to hurt. Zau E-R-N-A-M-E-I-S-N-O-T-M-E-L-Y. Noah whispered it like a curse. Her name is not Emily. My hands went cold. The room went colder. The spectrogram kept painting pain. New letters, slower now, not a sentence, an instruction. How it's you be Lena's eyes closed. A single tear decided not to fall. He's rewriting her, she said. I shook my head once, hard enough to be a refusal. He can't. The nurse returned with a form and a small sterile envelope. We can run the test, she said. Chain of custody will be intact. But I need a name. I gave her mine. She wrote it down. She wrote alleged father. My chest did a small violent thing and then was done. We stepped to a small room that smelled like saline and paper. She took the sample, cheek swab, sterile, the kind of intimacy you do because you want proof more than you want comfort. Noah watched from the doorway. Lena stood behind him, eyes like glass that learned how to be water. When we came back to the chairs, the spectrogram had stopped moving. Noah tapped the screen. Nothing. He tried the app. It crashed. He reopened. Blank. He looked at me, scared in a way that had teeth. The ER vent hissed one last time, then fell quiet like a singer leaving. And then my off phone lit with a single line of text that didn't have a sender. Swap complete. I didn't breathe. My heart did what it wanted. The nurse looked at our faces, then at the clock, then at her screen. What was swapped? She asked, almost curious, almost kind, almost afraid. I opened the swap. Envelope Alec had left on our porch. The paper inside was brittle cream folded twice. It smelled like old file cabinets and the years you pay for with dignity. The top line was a title that cracked something in me I didn't know was breakable. Certificate of live birth. County of. I unfolded slowly. Lena's hand found mine and didn't let go. Name of child. Not Emily. Last name mine. Mother. Lena. Father. Mark. It was 3:27 a.m. when the ER's fluorescent hum turned thin, like a wire pulled too tight. The birth certificate lay between us, cream paper bruised by years, my last name printed in neat county type. Mother, Lena. Father, Mark. My mouth tasted like copper. The room felt too small for breath. Noah stared at the form as if staring could change ink. Lena's hand stayed folded, knuckles white, wedding band cutting a shallow mark in the skin. Say something, Noah whispered. I couldn't. The word I'd lived in, father, felt like a door I'd walked through and now found bricked shut. The nurse glanced up, then down, then left us to our private wreckage. At 3:29 a.m., my off phone lit with a voicemail banner. No number, no contact, just a title that made my stomach turn. Ledger _ explanation, Mark. I hit play. White noise first, then a breath, steady, trained, not a panicked man's breath. A lawyer's breath. A liar's. Michael, Mark said, if you're hearing this, the house finally did its job. I stood because sitting made the air refuse me. The room smelled like saline and old hope. Noah pressed his palms to his knees, small shakes he tried to hide. You made me write a promise, Mark continued. You made me swear we'd keep her name in a book that couldn't be burned. My throat tightened. We made a promise, I said to the room, to myself. Mark's voice cut clean. I kept it. You didn't. Lena flinched. That's not fair. It's accurate, Mark said. And so is this. The certificate is real. Emily's last name is yours. Her father is me. The sentence fell like a brick into water. No esplas. Just sink. I felt anger rise. Hot, stupid, loud. And then I let it break without speaking. The voice didn't need my fire. It had its own. You wanted to explain, Mark said. So I will. You were gone that day. You remember? June 14th. County office. Lena said your name because the clerk asked. I signed because the clerk said the father needed to be present. You called later. You said we'd fix it. We didn't. Lena stared at the floor. I thought, she stopped. I thought we could change it when we were safe. You couldn't, Mark said. Names stick harder than promises. Noah's voice came out brittle. So you're her father. The voice softened, a tone I remembered from fights he won. I am her biological father, Mark said. But you raised her, Michael. She called you Dad. The distinction didn't heal. It bled slower. Mark's breath moved closer to the mic. Alec needed paperwork to own her story. He got it. He filed the protective order to freeze her name. He used our chaos to make her small. I saw Alec's envelope again. Swap complete. At 3:34 a.m., a soft tone chimed through the ER vent. Familiar mean. 7:31. The building seemed to lean. Here's the part you missed, Mark said. The ledger wasn't about money. It was about custody. Lena lifted her head. Custody. You hit her, Mark said. I signed papers I shouldn't have. You changed names you couldn't. And when Emily disappeared, the system decided for us. It kept whatever was loudest. Alec, I felt something in me drop. Past rage, past grief, into a cold room I hadn't visited. So what now? Mark didn't answer. The white noise rose, then cut. A new voice slid in. Female, raw, close enough to touch. Dad, Emily said. Listen, don't fight each other. Fight him. My chest cracked. I closed my eyes. Her breath carried salt and regret and a stubborn streak I knew too well. I'm at the place you hate, she whispered. 7 and 31st. Downstairs. Past the vending machines. Room with no window. Noah stood. Lena did too. The nurse looked up, startled by something she felt but didn't hear. The ER vent hissed once like a finger to lips. My phone flashed a final line in the banner. No sender, no app, just a sentence. Come now. Before he does. We ran, and halfway down the corridor, turning left at the humming soda machines, a shadow detached from the wall and stepped in front of us. Alec's outline, patient, blocking the door with his hand on the knob. He smiled without showing teeth. Looking for family? He said. You should check the ledger. Alec's hand rested on the knob like he owned the door. The ER corridor smelled like bleach and old coffee, a thin hum cutting through fluorescent light. Noah stood to my right, breathing shallow. Lena's gaze fixed past Alec, to the small windowless room beyond. Move, I said. Alec tilted his head, listening as if I were a song he'd heard before. You forgot the rule, he said. Ledger first. My fingers tightened around the bag. The red ledger inside felt like a live wire. We brought it. He smiled without teeth. You brought your version. The vent above us hissed, soft, then lower, as if the building wanted to interrupt. Somewhere down the hall, a vending machine clicked and dropped a soda with a hollow thud. The door stayed shut. Alec's thumb tapped the knob twice, a private code. Open it, Lena said. Or step aside. He didn't. He lifted his phone. A new waveform crawled across the screen, flat, then ridged. White noise. It carried a subtle breath, steady, too steady to be casual. Noah whispered, not again. Alec leaned closer. You think paper tells truth, he said. But paper can lie. Dreams, though dreams don't know how. The white noise shifted, layered with a distant beep, slow, stubborn. The spectrogram on Noah's phone, still open, painted a thin line. Letters started to ghost inside the brightness. Emily. Lena's hand went to her mouth. Cheese. A voice slid under the hiss, soft, pained, intimate enough to make me forget the corridor existed. Dad, Emily whispered. I dreamed our porch. The briefcase. The promise. I didn't breathe. The corridor seemed too narrow for this. Emily's breath caught, then steadied. He said I wasn't real. He said the ledger was a trick. But I wrote my name in the part of sleep that doesn't forget. Alex's eyes flicked to me, amused. See, he said, not even she believes your paper. Then let me hear her, I said. Not you. He shrugged and nudged the door open an inch. Cold air slid out, metallic, sterile, carrying the small, constant hum of machines. The room inside smelled like saline and lonely mornings. We edged closer. Alec didn't block us, merely turned his shoulder like a hinge. Noah slipped past him first, small, fast. Lena followed, jaw set. I stepped in last, the bag strap biting my palm. The room was smaller than I feared. No window. A single bed. A monitor's green line making small mountains. On the pillow, dark hair, lighter than memory, face pale but unmistakable. Emily. Her lashes trembled against her skin like a heartbeat trying to be quiet. Emily. Lena breathed, half prayer, half apology. Alex stood by the door, casual, as if he'd brought us a gift. Dreams tell the truth, he said softly. Listen. The monitor beeped slow. The vent hummed. The dream voice threaded itself through the room like a careful seam. Dad, Emily whispered. I kept waiting for you to undo the erasing. You didn't, but I still know you. My throat stung. I stepped to the bed. She looked asleep, but her voice in the white noise felt awake in a way sleep never manages. I'm here, I said. Don't. Alec cut in mild, tapping his phone. Names matter. Noah's jaw tightened. She named him. Emily's voice, dream soft, stubborn, continued, almost smiling. I named you. Alec's face flickered, something hard passing under the skin. Paper, he said. Or court. Choose. Lena moved to the bed's rail, fingers skimming metal. We choose her. The dream shifted, thickened, like a deeper layer of sleep pulled forward. Dad, Emily whispered, the ledger in red. Last page, turn now. I pulled the book. My hand shook. The back page had a folded corner. I opened it. A single line, penciled small, scrawled at an angle. Hospital, ER, room with no window, witness required, record. I looked at Alec. He looked back, bored, waiting for me to fail. I opened voice memos. Hit record. The red dot glowed. Witness, I said, steady. Name your claim. Alec's smile didn't reach his eyes. He held up the birth certificate like a playing card. Paper, he said, in protective order. Emily's voice pressed through the hiss, thin but certain. Dream, she said, and father. The monitor beeped. The vent breathed. The red dot held. Choose, Alex said again, almost tender. I did. I turned the record toward Emily, toward the ledger, toward the monitor's steady green. We choose what she says in her sleep, I said, and we'll wake her to make it law. Alex's eyes went flat. He reached for the plug on the monitor. 2 fingers. Calm. And the screen, green line, small mountains flickered. The monitor's green line jittered, then steadied. Alex's fingers hovered over the plug like a threat that didn't need teeth. Noah took 1 step forward, shoulders squared, voice a whisper with metal in it. Don't. Alec didn't pull. He smiled instead, small and bored. You don't understand, he said. Silence is evidence. The room tightened. No window. No escape. The vent breathed softly, carrying that hospital-clean scent like it wanted us to behave. Lena reached for Emily's wrist, careful, 2 fingers finding pulse. A quiet knock, present, stubborn. Talk if you want, Alex said. The record that matters is the one that stays quiet. I held the red ledger at my side, thumb pressed to the folded corner. The last page had told us to record, to witness, to make sleep speak. We had. The voice memo glowed. The room didn't care. Explain silence, I said. Alec tilted his phone. The spectrogram app moved, thin bands, low tones, a buried line. He pinched to zoom. The buried line resolved into letters, faint, patient. S-H-A-I-N-O-F-U-S-T-O-D-Y. He looked up. If she never speaks, the only voices allowed are on paper. Lena's jaw set. And you brought paper. He nodded, gracious in a way that felt cruel. Birth certificate. Protective order. Court stamped silence. Noah's breath came fast, then leveled. He turned his own screen to the room. Our spectrogram feed. Then we bury you in quiet, too. He tapped. A filter slid over the feed and flattened Alec's tone into noise. The letters vanished. The line went blank. Alec raised an eyebrow. Goo. The vent answered with a soft, long exhale. The kind of sound that happens when a building remembers something. My phone off, vibrated once, then stopped. A single banner flashed and faded too quickly to read. I caught only the last word. Witness. I moved to the bed. Emily's lashes trembled. The monitor kept a slow rhythm. I placed the ledger on the rail and held the microphone of my phone near her mouth, no closer than respect allows. Emily, I whispered. If you can hear me, say my name. Lena pressed her fingers to her lips, a habit she had when prayers felt illegal. Noah's shoulders went rigid. Alec watched the door like he had timed something. Silence. The kind that sits in a courtroom between question and answer and decides which life gets smaller. I lowered the phone. We'll wake her later, I said. We don't need your permission. Alex Maid. Notice, no worms. You need mine for the slide. The DNA slide. Chain of custody. The nurse had sealed it. The envelope lay on the counter, a sterile promise waiting to be honored. Try to touch it, Noah said. See what happens. Alec didn't move. I won't touch it, he said. I already did. Lena's eyes sharpened. What? He nodded toward the ER vent. Silence collects fingerprints. Air is sticky. The filter holds prints longer than paper. Ask them. The nurse's heels clicked down the hall. She stepped in, eyes taking the room in one sweep. Us, Alec, the bed, the envelope. If you're recording, she said, I need consent. Alec turned to her with a courtesy that made me ill. I consent. I don't, Lena said. The nurse nodded once. Then stop. I ended the memo. The red that died. The room felt suddenly lighter and more dangerous. Alec's phone chimed. He glanced at it, satisfied, then slid it into his coat. We're done, he said. We're not, I said. You said silence is evidence. He opened the door. I did. Then we'll bury you in it. He paused, half in shadow, half in light. You can try. The door shut. The room held its breath. The vent hummed. The monitor's green line raised a small mountain, then another. Noah leaned on the counter, palms flat. Dad, he said softly. Look, the spectrogram feed on his phone had kept painting on its own. In the quiet, a new band appeared, thin, bright, not Alec's tone. Letters ghosted into the line, faint, deliberate. N-U-T-P-A-P-E-A. Lena stepped closer. What's not paper? Another line formed beneath it, slower, calmer. F-E-N-T. And then a third, the kind that makes bones remember names. F-E-L-U-A. I looked at the corners of the room. The baseboards, the vent, the tile seam that ran under the bed. The ledger's last page had said, witness required. The hospital silence had said, chain of custody. We weren't alone in this room. Something had been buried here, not in files, not in forms, but inside the building itself. I stepped to the vent and pressed my palm flat to the grill. The air breathed back, and somewhere below us, under tile, under bed, under law, a small, careful tap answered. 3 taps, then a pause, then one. 731. I turned to Lena. To Noah. Help me move the bed, I said. Because the evidence we needed wasn't on the paper Alec held. It was under our feet. We lifted the bed an inch at a time, careful not to pull cords or wake the machines. The ER tiles were cold under my palms, grit biting skin. Noah slid his fingers under the frame and pushed. Lena steadied the monitor stand, eyes fierce, jaw set. The vent breathed slow, as if the building wanted to watch. Here, Noah said. His voice had that wired calm I recognized from storms. Tile seam. A hairline crack ran from the baseboard toward the center. Straight, purposeful, not the kind accidents make. I knelt and pressed. The tile didn't give. I tapped with my knuckle. Hollow. Lena handed me the key. 731. The number that had threaded itself through our night like a curse that refuses to be clever. Try the grout, she whispered. I slid the key's edge into the seam. The grout flaked, then lifted. A small square loosened. The sound it made, dry, careful, felt like permission. Beneath a metal lip. Not hospital silver. Homemade, brown and stubborn. Like someone had repurposed our floor's secrets for theirs. I pulled gently. A panel lifted. The air that rose smelled like cardboard and old rain. Noah held his breath. Lena didn't. Inside the cavity sat three things. A folded paper, a flash drive wrapped in that same vanilla tape, and a small black device that looked like an audio transmitter. The paper had a single line on the outside, written in pencil, slanted as if the writer had been tired. Not paper. Noah reached for the transmitter. I shook my head. Chain of custody, I said, hearing the nurse's voice in mine. He nodded, frustrated, contained. I unfolded the paper. It was a transcript. Short, brutal. Transcript, ER room, no window, witness, building vent. Male, you don't have a claim. Female, I have him. Male, you have his name on paper. Female, I have his voice. No signatures. No stumps. Just a record that refused ink. Lena touched the flash drive. This one, she said. Now. We didn't have my laptop. The nurse would hate this. I did anyway. I plugged the drive into Noah's phone with a tiny adapter he never remembers until we need it. A folder opened. 3 files. Names that avoided names. Vent, floor, final. Final. Noah said, hope and fear sharing a throat. Not yet, I said. Floor. I tapped. The video filled the screen with darkness at first, then a slow reveal, a camera under a bed, angled up, seeing legs and tile, and the low light of a room exactly like ours. Voices entered like people who didn't think anyone was listening. Alec, and a nurse I didn't recognize. Chain of custody is a joke, Alex said flatly. Silence wins. The nurse's voice was careful. Not always. You won't testify. She exhaled. I already did. The camera caught their feet. Alec moved closer. Paper says Mark, he said. Paper freezes names. Paper wins. The nurse didn't step back. Not tonight. Static wove through the audio, then cleared as if the building wanted us to hear precisely. Who's the father? Alec asked, almost bored. Biology isn't fatherhood, the nurse said. Law pretends it is. People know better. My throat tightened. Lena's hand found my wrist without looking. Noah stared hard enough to make pixels feel pressure. Final, he whispered. I tapped. The last file opened to Emily's face, close, lit by the green pulse of the monitor. Her eyes were half open, dream-heavy, voice the kind you use when your body sends words like letters smuggled out of a locked room. Dad, she said. They traded names. Keep mine. Lena's breath hitched. I stood without meaning to. Emily blinked slowly, fighting gravity. Lena, she whispered, keep him. The vent breathed in like a witness taking a note. And then the door opened. A shadow stepped in, broader than Alec, quieter than fear, wearing authority like a second skin. Badge at the belt. Steady eyes. He didn't look at us first. He looked at Emily, then the floor, then the vent, as if someone had already briefed him in a language we weren't fluent in. Mr. Hart, he said, using a name none of us owned cleanly. You need to come with me. Why? My voice asked without me. He lifted a sealed envelope, county stamp fresh, corners sharp. For the warrant, he said, and the arrest. The officer's voice carried the kind of calm that makes people panic without permission. Mr. Hart, he said, steady, professional, already decided. You need to come with me. The room answered with a silence that felt chosen. The vent breathed. The monitor hummed its fragile rhythm. Lena's hand closed around my wrist like a memory refusing to let go. Noah looked from the badge to me, to Emily. A triangulation of fear he couldn't solve. Why? I asked. It sounded smaller than I meant it to. He lifted a sealed envelope. County stamp fresh, ink not yet tired. Warrant, he said. An arrest. Alec leaned against the wall, light cutting his face into smudged geometry. Paper, he murmured. Told you. I stared at the envelope. My name wasn't on the outside. Who? I asked. Who is this for? The officer didn't blink. He didn't fumble. He turned the envelope so the room saw the line printed in industrial font, the kind that exists only to be believed. Subject, Alex Stone, he said. Alec's smile died quietly. The wall looked less interested in holding him up. What is this? He demanded, a threat of anger suddenly real. The officer spoke with the casual brutality of someone who trusts documentation the way other people trust prayers. Obstruction of a protective order. Tampering with medical records. Unlawful surveillance in a medical facility. He glanced at the vent, as if it had been called to testify. And burglary. Your prints are on the filter grids. Alec's eyes flashed something animal. He straightened, not enough to be taller than the badge. You're making a mistake, he said, voice tight. We're done, the officer replied, calm as winter. He turned to me, and the calm shifted, warmer, cautious. For you, he added, softer, there's a statement to give. Not tonight. Lena exhaled a sound that carried years. Noah stepped closer to the bed, to Emily, to the green mountains on the monitor, eyes nearly closed like he was practicing a new kind of prayer. Alec took one slow step toward the door, intent disguised as courtesy. The officer moved faster, a clean arc, hand at Alec's wrist, another at the shoulder, train quiet, no show. The cuffs clicked, that small metallic chime we'd been following all night pitch perfect at 731. In the hush that followed, the vent exhaled. The spectrogram on Noah's phone, a survivor, it had restarted itself while we were surviving, painted a thin, bright line across the noise. Letters ghosted into it, soft, sure, deliberate. WITNESS. The nurse appeared in the doorway, a clipboard in hand, calm restored like energy after a storm. Chain of custody is intact, she said. The slides registered. Your sample's logged. You'll get the result in 72 hours. I looked at Emily. Her lashes trembled. The dream voice had gone quiet, but something about her face, the way sleep held her instead of dragging, felt like a promise you could live inside without breaking. Dad? She whispered, and it didn't sound like a dream anymore. It sounded like memory returning to its owner. I'm here, I said. She swallowed slow. Keep my name, she said, and keep yourself. It took me a second to understand that second sentence. Keep yourself, not your role, not your paper, yourself. The officer led Alec out. The corridor swallowed their footsteps. The door didn't feel like a threat anymore. It felt like a border we had crossed without a map. Lena sat, knees touching the bed rail, eyes tired enough to be holy. Noah stood on the other side, key 731 in his pocket, ledger in his hands, face new. "Michael," Lena said, small, honest, soft. "I'm sorry." I believed her, not because it fixed anything, because it was the kind of sorry that doesn't ask for repair. It asks for truth. We opened the red ledger to its final page. Beneath the penciled instruction, hospital, room with no window, witness required. There was a line we hadn't noticed, written faint and slanted, like someone wrote it lying down, like someone wrote it exhausted. "Swap back," it said, "and don't erase to protect." I closed my eyes and saw our porch. The briefcase. The promise. The day June 14th stretched itself across my mind like a net. We had meant safety. We had built silence. I didn't know then that years later, in another room with a different silence, I would say something simple to a stranger asking how it broke. We were afraid. And people who are afraid make maps out of secrets. We left the ER with the ledger in a bag and the slide in the nurse's careful custody. The night outside had cooled the street into honesty. The hospital's neon hummed its weary faith. The car smelled like old coffee and relief. At home, the porch looked like a photograph you can't stop analyzing. The mailbox sat empty. The envelope marked swap lay where we'd left it, an artifact with bad manners. The vent, our house's chaperone, breathed soft. Inside, we moved gently. We put the ledger on the table like a family photo we hadn't earned yet. We powered down the secret devices. We taped nothing to stairs. We slept without sleep. 3 days later, the test arrived. 72 hours had held the weight of a year. The email subject line carried no poetry. "Your results," it said. We opened it together. Biological father. Mark, the nurse, had warned, and the portal confirmed, clinical and not interested in drama. There was genetics, neat and cruel. And under it, a second line bold. Petition for legal fatherhood, granted. I had filled out the petition without telling anyone, half courage, half apology. The system had said yes because the ledger said something the birth certificate didn't. Because chain of custody said something the protective order couldn't. Because the ER silence remembered the right voice. When we told Emily, sitting upright on our couch, a blanket wrapped tight around her like a new name that fits, she didn't cry. She breathed. She leaned her head back. She closed her eyes as if to tell herself a story about safety. Then she looked at me. "You didn't protect me by deleting me," she said. "You protected me by choosing me." We lived inside that sentence for a while. Months later, the final twist arrived dressed like kindness. The county sent a letter. The envelope had weight. Inside, a copy of a recording, courtroom, petition hearing, admission into evidence. We pressed play. A room with carpet and rules. A judge who had learned the precise temperature of mercy. The nurse's voice steady. The officer's brief testimony. And then another voice, written into the court transcript like a small flame. Submitted, private recording, Emily _ my last name, _ final, the clerk said. But the file that played wasn't the one we had. It was a second version, recorded later, layered with a line that recontextualized everything. "Dad," Emily said into the court's quiet air, "if you're hearing this, it means we're done erasing to protect. We protect by remembering. We protect by telling the truth when it hurts." The judge's gavel sounded like a door we had been knocking on for years, finally opening. Custody finalized. Protective order lifted. The birth certificate amended. The ledger archived, not burned, not hidden, kept where names go when they're safe. We walked out into a morning that didn't pretend to fix us. It simply held open the day. Lena's hand found mine on the courthouse steps. Noah walked ahead, taller because he was lighter. Emily stood beside me. Sun, finding her face, something quiet and brave in the way she smiled. We never erased to protect again. We protected by telling. At the table, on the porch, to each other, to anyone who touched our house and asked why the vents breathe softer now. We taught ourselves a thing simple enough to be hard. Names don't need hiding when love learns its courage. Looking back now, I see that the sleep story wasn't a glitch. It was a mirror. It didn't steal my voice. It returned it. It didn't tell Emily what to be. It let her speak. Some nights, long after paperwork stopped being prophecy, we played the final recording for ourselves. Not the one that broke us, the one that made us. It says, very quietly, the thing we forgot we needed to hear. And that was the day I learned protection without truth is just another kind of abandonment. Love doesn't erase to keep you safe. It stays visible even when it hurts. And we listen, because that's the final line I can live inside. Some doors, once you close them, should never be opened again, especially the ones that hide our names.